Welcome back into the Blurred Wire. We kind of had to do this like little pop-up episode that's going to be very short, because Sony finally released their final trailer for Venom 3,
He's forcing me to be
and
here
I am against his will, just like
against my
Venom.
will.
Yeah, that's exactly the
I am Eddie Brock in this situation,
right. It's
frankly.
it's really a perfect mirror, honestly. Um, but we find out who the villain of Venom 3 is, and it is none other than Knull, who is a fantastic Marvel villain, one of the strongest ones in the Marvel comics that my brother, Alex, who's with me right now, actually introduced me to. Um, and I like it's not that like I didn't see it coming, but I'm also now like very, very worried
I mean, you were
because
excited for Knull before this. Like, you wanted Knull to be in a Venom
right.
movie. But I know the vibes where it's like every other major villain has kind of crashed and burned since Thanos. So it's like, just don't even do it.
And especially in Sony's hands, that's the part that I just don't trust. Because
Oh, this is
Sony,
still Sony?
yeah, Venom: The Last Dance is still Sony. They are the same
Um,
people that made Madam Web, that made Morbius, and it's like Sony has yet to make a good movie.
Madam Web and Morbius, bro. Oh
Yeah,
no. And the other two
since
Venom movies, the other two Venom movies aren't bad, but like the villains aren't what like Carnage is, it's not the Carnage that we all know. I don't want to say know and love because nobody loves Carnage.
right.
But like, you know the vibes I'm going for.
Yeah. And it's like Sony, like they did as best as they could. Bringing in Woody Harrelson was great, but it also felt like they didn't have a lot of substance for Rise of Carnage, so they tried to
No,
pad the
that's
runtime by
literally it.
having
Yeah.
Venom do some weird like, "Oh, I'm at a club now." Like it's just
The
and watching the trailers,
Venom movies are Sony's like Deadpool. And
exactly.
one
That's
thing
a good
that's
way to put
always
it. Yeah.
that's one thing that like Deadpool really thrives off of. I don't want to say thrives. And this is something that kind of irked you, but like I think it worked just because of like nobody cares about her, no offense. Is that Deadpool uses like the first movie had like who was that guy?
Ajax,
Literally
we
who
have
was that guy?
in the comics you really don't know him, just
The
Ajax
second
is the
movie,
villain.
the villain was the friggin' Fire Kid, technically,
Yeah,
because it wasn't really
technically.
Cable,
Yeah, but
so
Cable
and
was like
nobody
the
cares.
main
The
antagonist.
third movie has Cassandra Nova, who is a much bigger villain. But
Mhm.
frankly, I don't think they did her too bad for it being like she was, about
I
as
did
good.
forgot to mention that. I did really like the way they did her in Deadpool and
Um,
Wolverine.
yeah, so like for a joke movie, it's easier to have like villains that nobody talks about that much. And I mean Cassandra Nova, yeah, but still I think they did her well. But for Sony, have fun with Null.
I know.
That's
And
a big guy for them to.
I'm just
It's like it's
worried they're
like
gonna
it's like
ruin
if
him.
Deadpool 3 had uh Thanos because Deadpool does a lot
Right.
with Thanos. You know what I mean? It's
Right.
like, nah.
Right. And like it's kind of the
Nah.
way I feel about what they did with Kang, putting him in Ant-Man and the Wasp: Quantumania. Like Kang in and of himself was a great
I
villain.
thought
He
it
was
was cute.
played
I had fun.
well. Right. But to
But
me,
I get your point. He's too
he was
big
in a
to be in
jokey
a.
movie.
Yeah, it's like
Right.
again, like going to Thanos. It's like if Thanos popped up in an Iron Man 2. Like, what's up? Like, what are you doing? It's too
Or
soon for you, buddy.
if Thanos was in like the first Ant-Man, which was literally a huge joke the whole time. Like it wouldn't have made sense to have such a powerful character be in such like a jokey, campy movie. So,
Okay,
and obviously
okay.
they're not getting rid of that.
Was the Ant-Man movie a joke? Yes, but it was funny.
Right. And that's fine. That's fine. But there's a reason why they didn't put Thanos in it
Yeah.
because he's not that kind of villain. And even with like Avengers, Infinity War and Endgame, like it had funny parts, but the entire movies weren't jokes because they still kept it very serious, especially around Thanos. So, like I did expect Null, and I did kind of want to see Null, but I am nervous because, like, again, Sony hasn't made like a good movie in a very, very long time. Like the last one I can really think of
I feel
is
like
The
you're just gonna.
Amazing
I
Spider-Man.
feel like you're just gonna end the sentence. Sony hasn't really made a good movie.
That's it. That's really made one.
No, yeah, I mean back in the day.
I mean,
You have Toby, not yeah, Toby Maguire's movies were pretty good,
Alex, that
but
was in
also
2002.
yeah, and they were still um, what's his name? Who directed them?
Sam Raimi.
they were still very, yeah, they were still very memeable.
Right.
So like to have a very important integral villain.
Because I mean, I still like Knull as a villain for like Eternals 2, but we know we're not getting Eternals 2, but that will spoil our, fixing the
There's just
multiverse
some
saga.
villains that need to be in
But
movies that are like taken seriously. Like for instance, like
yeah,
what's the bug guy?
the best way to describe it.
Oh, I forgot his name. It's gonna kill me.
The bug guy from
Annihilus. He can't be in anything
right.
silly. He can't be in anything silly because he's a big deal, bro.
And here's the thing, like Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, Guardians of the Galaxy is a very campy franchise,
But it gets
but
serious when it needs to. It gets
it was
very
a
serious when it needs
very
to.
yeah, High Evolutionary was a very serious villain. And while that movie still like made us laugh, it was still so intense.
I wouldn't put Guardians on like the Deadpool
No, probably not. The
uh
first one was, but
Venom levels. Not even the no, because every time, because yeah, Guardians is silly, but it always had its moments.
mhm,
There's Deadpool and Venom kind of like the moments are extraordinary. Like they'll be like, hey, uh, someone I love died, and then they'll like they'll stand up for like 2 seconds and then they'll make a joke and it's done. But like
yeah.
Guardians, they'll sit in that and they'll sit in that emotion to let you feel it. You know.
Hmm.
So
And
I
that's
wouldn't.
why, yeah,
That's
and
why they
like
can
it's
that's why they can have stuff like the High Evolutionary and you feel Rocket's pain.
yeah.
Where even with Peter Quill talking to his dad for the first time, but then having to like you killed my mom, it's like you sit in that
And like
every time.
and that's kind of why people hated Love and Thunder because it was such a campy movie, but you
Yeah,
have a
they didn't let
great
you
villain
sit.
in Gore in it, and it's like we're
Yeah.
getting the same. And with the
But like the
Necro
joke is
Sword,
like, oh, like yeah, yeah, Gore is killing people, and you're like, oh, but my girlfriend's back. Like, bro, there's
yeah,
bigger issues.
she's like, oh, my at least my arm is in Valhalla. Like, oh well, you got to die in battle in order to like actually get to Valhalla, and
Very
it's just
funny.
it was.
Very
And
funny.
with the Necrosword, it made me think that like we would get Knull, like because obviously that's his weapon in the comics. If you know from the comics, Knull is the one who creates All Black, the Necrosword, which is the weapon that Gore uses in Thor: Love and Thunder.
And also, because we have to get going soon, but just one more thing, just to bring it all back full circle. Because even in Ragnarok, which was a silly movie, it did the same thing that Guardians did, where it would let you sit in those moments where it got heavy, where Thor realized that hey, I have to blow up my homeland. Where he no when he realized that like the freaking mural was a lie and that his dad didn't build alliances by peacefully negotiating, he friggin' killed a lot of people.
Yeah.
He was a warlord with his sister.
Hmm.
Like they let you sit in it where
And I kind of wish they had, let you sit in it when they killed the Warriors 3 instead of kind of turning that into a joke.
yeah,
But that's a
that's
whole
fair.
nother storyline.
Yeah, that's
But
fair.
again, that's kind of my point. That's the difference. That's what
We're
I
not
don't
gonna
want them to do with
we're
Null.
not gonna sit in null, and we
Yeah.
kind of need to.
And I guess we'll see. But I guess Trepidation. I'm still gonna go see it because I want to see Null on the big screen. But Trepidation is the best. The only way I think it would work is if somehow Null wins, and I would love for him to like end up in the MCU. But I also think Kevin Feige in the MCU is wary of like being connected with Sony anymore after
I think
Morbius and Madam Web. They're kind
I
of like,
think
let's just not.
given the extent of the Venom cameo in uh what's
No
the
Way
name?
Home.
Yeah, I think we can see the very delicately way that they're dealing with Sony.
Yeah, I really feel like that shows how much the MCU like trusts Sony with Marvel projects. So, let us know what you think if you're worried about Sony bringing Null as Venom for their big, third villain, and how it's going to be if you think they're going to do Null justice or not. Very, very unsure how this is all going to play out and if it's going to be good. And I don't really think it's going to be, which is a shame because he's such a great villain. So let us know your thoughts, and yeah, we'll see you guys next time.